Ever since I first played Baba Is You, ever since I first saw a trailer for Baba Is You, it has been exactly what I think a good puzzle game looks like. To me, it has become the platonic ideal of a clever puzzle game. As a game designer myself, I feel like it represents the level of ingenuity I aspire to create in my own games. So in this video, I want to take some time to explore why it's such an effective puzzle game and what makes it so fun to engage with. Baba Is You appears pretty simple on the surface. You control a little creature called Baba, and you can move around on a grid. You are in a level with an exit that you have to reach, and there are objects like rocks that you can push around in order to get there. Seems simple enough. The twist is that those rules are written out by blocks in the actual level, and by pushing them around, you can change what the rules themselves mean. If you move the rules around so that it now says wall is push, then suddenly you can push walls right out of your way. Can't get to the flag to reach the goal? Make a rock the goal instead and go there. The fundamental game mechanic of Baba Is You is to change the rules of the game. On its own, the ability to change any of the game's rules is overwhelming. There are a huge number of objects and properties in the game, and nobody could learn the game by just having all the rules explained. Luckily, Baba Is You doesn't try to do that. There isn't anywhere in the game that will tell you what the different object properties do. Rather, it makes you learn by doing. Every level introduces new ideas, but never so many as to overwhelm you. In one level, you might learn that you can connect the push property to a rock so you can move it around. Then, in the next level, you might learn you can say water is push, and suddenly you can cross over water no problem. The game's progression is precisely designed to avoid overwhelming you with new information, and instead teaches you little bits at a time. In the first chapter of A Game Design Vocabulary, Anna Anthropy argues that well-designed games often don't need a tutorial, and gives Super Mario Bros. As an example. Rather than telling the player what everything does and what their goals are, the game just starts with Mario, a question block, and a Goomba walking toward him. It leaves the player to experiment with the world and its elements to determine what they do and how they work. I think Baba Is You works in a similar way. You are dropped into the first level, some simple walls, some rocks blocking your path, and a flag behind them. The only instruction on the screen is a button prompt for movement. The rest is left for you to figure out by experimentation. Through this level, you can learn how words connect to each other, what the different words do, and how the rules can be changed, all without any text telling you what to do or how to do it. The game's introduction level feels inherently more fun than a standard set of instructions and explanations would. In A Theory of Fun for Game Design, Ralph Koster argues, and I agree, that fun is fundamentally about learning. I would like to extend that to say that fun depends on intrinsically motivated learning. In the Baba Is You intro, the player learns and comes to understand the game's mechanics by experimenting and exploring from their own intrinsic motivation. A more traditional, more direct tutorial would create an extrinsic motivation by giving explicit instructions, so the player would be exploring the mechanics not for their own sake, but because they were told to, and in turn would suck the fun out of the learning process. The relationship between learning and fun continues throughout the game, well past the introduction. The core of what makes the game fun is the learning that the player must do to complete the levels. Nearly every level has some eureka or aha moment that drives the catharsis of completing a level. That moment of realization is there because the player learned something new. They discovered a new way to look at the game world, and a discovery like that is a reward of fun in itself. When I played Baba Is You for the first time, I recognized that cathartic feeling you get when you beat a level. As a game programmer, I recognized it as the feeling I get after cracking a particularly tough code problem or fixing a really persistent bug. Coding is pretty similar to Baba Is You in a lot of ways, and so it makes sense I would get the same feeling from both. And in the same way as with Baba, I only find coding fun when it's intrinsically motivated. Coding for a game I was inspired to create is way more engaging for me than coding for a class or for work. The fun comes from that internal motivation. Baba Is You is a stellar example of why learning is the core of fun in video games. It lets the player's internal motivation to experiment drive their experience and bring about the fun of the game.